Miami, Hurricane Irma's deadly fury threatened to swamp low-lying islands of the Bahamas with a possible 20-foot storm Friday as the monster storm moved toward Florida's doorstep, packing the potential to ravage the state with destruction not seen in a generation. The window to escape the path of Irma in Florida was rapidly closing. Forecasters said Irma, now about 500 miles southeast of Miami, could make landfall early Sunday somewhere in the wideband between densely populated Atlantic coast and the 120-mile string of islands from Key Largo to Key West, before veering to the north, possibly toward more population centers up the eastern seaboard. This storm has the potential to catastrophically devastate our state, Governor Rick Scott, R., said Thursday. Earlier, he implored people to evacuate. If you live in any evacuation zones and you're still at home, leave. Fleeing to safer ground was not an option for many in the Caribbean, where Irma had claimed at least 11 lives and had the Prime Minister of tiny Barbuda grasping for a word to describe the devastation. The island, said Gaston Brown, was now rubble. France's Minister for Overseas Territories, Annie Girardin, described scenes of pillaging on St. Martin as looters cleaned out stores and roamed the streets in search of food and water. Irma's maximum sustained winds subsided slightly to about 155 miles per hour. The difference, however, meant little. The Hurricane Center described Irma as extremely dangerous Category 4 storm whose massive punch included surging seas. A swell of up to 20 feet above high tide was expected in the Turks and Caicos and Bahamas, enough to cover huge portions of an archipelago where the highest point is just over 200 feet above sea level. And another powerful hurricane was following in Irma's wake. Hurricane Jose, now packing winds of 125 miles per hour as a Category 3 storm, was expected to bring up to 10 inches of rain and life-threatening flooding to islands already left reeling by Irma, including Barbuda to Anguilla, the Hurricane Center said. In Florida, the crush to leave had millions of people on the move. Highways were jammed, gas was scarce, airports were packed, deluged, and mandatory evacuations began to roll out as the first official hurricane watches were issued for the region, which could face destruction not seen since Hurricane Andrew in 1992. Miami-Dade County ordered some mandatory evacuations, including for Key Biscayne and Miami Beach, as well as for areas in the southern half of the county that are not protected by barrier islands. Evacuate Miami Beach. Miami Beach Mayor Philip Levine tweeted, later noting in a news release that once winds top 40 miles per hour, first responders will no longer be dispatched on rescue missions here. Other evacuation zones were in place across much of South Florida. States of emergency also were declared in Georgia, South Carolina and North Carolina in anticipation of Irma's path early next week. Scott, the Florida governor, ordered that all state offices, public schools, state colleges and state universities be shut down from Friday through Monday to ensure we have every space available for sheltering and staging. Still, it was unclear where Irma will make landfall. The wild card here is the turn. Anytime a hurricane makes a turn, it introduces uncertainty, Mark DeMaria, acting deputy director of the National Hurricane Center in Miami, told the Washington Post in the center's headquarters in West Miami-Dade County. DeMaria noted that the computer models have fluctuated modestly, with adjustments in the consensus track of 50 miles or so every day. But 50 miles onshore versus right of the coast makes a huge difference in impact, he said. The combination of Florida's geography, the pattern of urban settlement in narrow bands along the coast, and the projected northerly path of the hurricane presents a particularly ominous picture. This is a large storm coming from the south, said Dennis Feldgen, spokesman for the Hurricane Center. That's the worst case scenario, because it takes in the entire Gold Coast population, and you have the greatest impact from storm surge from that direction. At the National Hotel on Miami Beach, a manager announced Thursday in 4 languages, English, Spanish, Portuguese and French, that guests needed to evacuate because of a city order. At the front desk, guests were given a sheet listing the locations of emergency shelters, none of which were likely to be as nice as the beachfront Art Deco hotel, which was restored a few years ago. This morning as I walked to work, I could see the things that could become projectiles, said Natalia Garis, 35, lead concierge at the National. street signs. Coconuts. All the trash cans. Smoking stations. All the decorations. As she spoke, workers used a ladder to dismantle a decorative light fixture hanging over the hotel entrance. Ruben van de Bosch, 28, and Wim Martin, 26, both of Belgium, and Jim van S, 24, of the Netherlands,